Okay, good evening, everyone. This is Renee Daly. It is 7:07 on March 24th. I'm going to call the Economic Development Commission meeting to order. On the commission, I'm present myself, Renee Daly, Mike Massini, Laura Parker, Christine DeVoe, Denise Luciano, and am I missing anyone from the committee? Okay. So we definitely have a full house. On our agenda tonight, we are going to hear from Janice Israel and team on Oasis of Tranquility. They are interested in, she's interested in a cultivation, manufacturing, and home delivery operator license here in the town of Norton. We'll have some discussion, potential vote on a TIF that I have just labeled as Blue Star TIF. We'll talk about any updates to the marijuana establishments overall, and then have some discussion on an update on the town-owned properties, and then go into the prepared business. If you're not speaking on the call, if you can mute yourself, please, that would be great.
Oh my God, I'm getting mommy.
Okay. Janice, are you on the call? I'm looking for you here on my screen.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Seems like there's an echo. Can you talk one more time?
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay. I think the echo might be coming from you.
Is that better?
Yep, much better. Perfect.
Oh, wrong Denise. Sorry.
Okay, so Janice, appreciate you coming tonight. I did share with the commission the materials that you had sent to me. I will turn it over to you. Let me give you the ability to share here. 1 second. And
Well,
welcome again to the commission, and I'll turn it over to you. I got some echo again here. Oh, we see you twice. And you're muted on both.
all right. There we go. Sorry about that. This is the one I need to use for the presentation, so I want to switch to this one, please.
So perfect. Do you want to introduce yeah, and do you want to introduce those who will be speaking with you tonight as well?
Okay, so Jason Brunswick, I hope that he's on the call from Grossman. I can't tell if he's on the call already.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yep, I'm here.
Great. All right. So I'm still trying to get the share capability. I don't have it yet.
Like scanning the ID to make sure that it's actually a valid ID.
Yes, well, there has to be someone in that just stays in the car. So it is one person to go and check the ID. And so it has to be a valid Massachusetts ID that shows the same address that they're delivering to. So it's no scan process at this time. It's possible that something like that could come up, but right now it is just verifying that it's a valid Massachusetts ID. There also will be a pre-registration process that they will already be registered in and, you know, identified prior to arriving even to the facility at purchase.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Renee, I have some questions.
Please go ahead, Laura.
Janice, can you describe the business ownership structure?
The business ownership structure is minority owned, woman owned, mostly women owned, and so I have some partners who are going to be working with, say, the cultivation and some of the fundraising and some of the other portions, but it is mostly minority owned and woman owned.
Okay. Can you explain why you chose to incorporate as opposed to form a limited liability company?
So no, you said why I chose a corporation over a limited liability?
Yes.
So that has always been my business structure. I've been a realtor for 20 years and I have had a business in the past and I've had multiple. I've had an LLC in the past and I just prefer the corporation structure for tax purposes, for growth purposes. Yes, it's just a type of structure that I've always preferred over an LLC.
I have more, but I'll let other people pop in.
This is Mike Massini. Just a quick question in terms of the timeline, estimated opening. The slide, showed, it showed a timeline for certainly site prep and licensing and certainly the build out. It looks like the January 2022 date is probably the most, probably the earliest possible date. Was I interpreting that correctly?
Yes, it's more than likely going to have to be pushed back with the season if it doesn't start prior to, the snowfall.
Right.
Then that would have to be pushed back. Yes.
Okay. So if it is pushed back with the New England winter, realistically, when will we be looking at an opening? Sometime in
Possibly April or May.
April or May.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else have any questions?
Denise, I have some questions. I was trying to find a document real quick, but if I may. So did you say in the beginning of the presentation that the social equity certification, that it's pending, that you haven't received that from the CCC yet?
Oh, no, sorry. I'll go back to that slide. I do have the social equity status. This is pending the Massachusetts Certified Disadvantaged Business, which is another status separate.
Okay.
But it also gives additional, expedited licensing and additional assistance in those types of areas.
Okay. And then on slide 5, you had a bullet there about the partnership with the community electricity aggregation. Can you explain the benefits of that? That's something new that I haven't heard of.
Oh, okay. So yes, actually working with them to be able to bring power to the location. Well, they actually don't bring the power in, but it is it's a local program that sorry. So it's a local program that the town created. I believe it may be with another few towns in the area, but I know Norton is the town that created it, and it's called the Community Electricity Aggregation. And
yeah, I'm sorry. I stated my question wrong. I am aware of the program. I'm trying to understand how does that partnership benefit you and the cultivation facility?
Reduced electrical expenses. Is I'll need to have electricity to the facility, so reduce electrical expenses by going through this procedure.
Okay. Are you looking at any sort of, the power is pretty significant, right? With the lighting that needs to be there?
Yes, that's why I was looking for programs similar to this. And then also this facility is next to the solar farm that's owned by Mr. Greenwald. So I've already have an agreement with him to also receive some of the electricity from the solar farm there. It would be right next to it, abutting it.
Okay, that was my next question about a sustainable or reusable power. And those conversations are ongoing now?
Yes, they are. Yes.
Okay.
It's actually Mr. Greenwald's property as well. So purchasing the property from Mr. Greenwald as well. So.
Okay, and then on the next slide, you had talked about the COO and the CTO on here, and you had said a partnership with Simplify or ProCana. So are those partnerships not completed yet? Is that something that you're having talks about too?
Yes, and then when I get closer to opening, I should say, I will actually have hired someone for those roles. And this is in the pre-licensing portion. I have worked with both of them for portions of it. So, that's why I included them as well. But for licensing, it's possible that I could work with both of them for portions of it, continuing to licensing. But there'll be someone hired to manage that role. So.
Okay, and that's hired from you, or is that outsourcing it through them?
Oh, hired from me to manage the outsourcing of those
Okay.
procedural processes. Yes.
So they will be employees of Oasis?
Yes, the employees of Oasis to manage working
Okay.
with Simplify and Procana and working with the auditing and tracking of the business compliance and operations. It's a big job.
And there was, how does that impact? I'm trying to find the document because I thought that you have on one of your licenses that you had listed yourself as like, I thought you were the only person listed. Yeah, on as president, treasurer, secretary, vice president, and director. Would that be impacted? This is your, I think it's just it's the Commonwealth Corporation.
Oh, in order to open,
Documentation.
right. Well, in order to open, I didn't have any business partners at opening. So that was in order to open the corporation. That's the paperwork to create the corporation. So, I didn't declare those partnerships at that time. I didn't have that at that time.
Okay. Do you have partnerships now?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And who are your other partners?
So, other, like the names of the partners, the team.
The names. Whoever has ownership within the organization.
So I haven't actually added anyone on for those roles. I'm still scouting that out currently, but I have a few that I'm working with, potentially work on different, as far as being investors as well as partners. So I haven't confirmed that yet, but working with.
Okay.
As you know, with the host agreement as well, that will kind of seal the deal for a lot of potential partnerships and investments that I have been working on.
Yeah, I think that we would need that structure before the EDC would make a recommendation to the board to engage into the NHCA. So we can certainly talk offline, but we'll want to make sure. I have a little list here of things that we'll need prior to a vote from this group. And in the process, I'm not sure. I know I mentioned this in the email, but just to kind of reiterate, and Paul's on too, so Paul can help in respect to timing the planning board. But the process is essentially the discussion with us. We'll review it and at some point, have further conversation and take a vote. I anticipate that won't be tonight, just because there are some items that we don't have access to. Additionally, as part of that review, and I don't know if you have this yet, and it was one of my questions, but your security plan, a detailed security plan, we would want to take that as well as the other information that you provided for your security and provide that to the police chief. We don't review that as part of the EDC because we understand it's confidential. So he would review it and then he comes back to the meeting and he discusses his recommendation or any changes that need to take place. And then from there, with an affirmed recommendation from the EDC, then we provide that to the select board and we look at scheduling for a meeting, but that's contingent upon the completed negotiation of the HCA. Okay. And then once all that's done, that's when the timeline picks up in respect to what you have to do for the CCC, and then engaging the planning board and the building commission for the appropriate permits. The one thing I'd like to note, I know that Mike had asked you a question about the timeline, and I don't know if you and Paul had any discussion on this. I think your timeline is somewhat aggressive based on the review process from the CCC, the timing of that, and then as well the process, just to get through the information session that you have to have, the public hearing. It's not a public hearing, but it's a public information session you have to have on the location. Once that's that's finalized. And I'll have to look at the process because it's escaping me right now at what point that comes in. And then there's a public hearing that happens with the planning board and obviously review and discussion with the planning board. So I just mentioned that now, you know, for your consideration. But it does seem like a fairly aggressive timeline.
Yes,
that
I
regard.
agree. Okay.
You talked a little bit about, and I missed this on here. You said, have you already talked with a vendor that's going to provide your security?
Yes.
Okay, and who was that? I just missed it when you were going through, and I know I read it, I just don't remember. American Alarm.
American Alarm.
Okay.
Mhm.
And they'll be responsible for doing like the configuration drawings for you
Yes.
once you finalize a layout?
Yes, it is. Mhm.
And are you planning on having any on-site security personnel?
Yes, I will have an on-site security. Yes. Mhm.
Okay.
And that was also another reason why the timeline was just a little bit aggressive, because it's not an actual building, but it still is, you know, probably too aggressive. But it's you know, the greenhouse structure is you know, going to be fully built out, and you know, it's just a little bit less time consuming as an actual full building, and so, but it's probably still a little aggressive.
Yeah, and that's okay. I can tell you in the conversations that we've had, I think everybody's come to us with an aggressive timeline, but you know, that's why we just want to have discussion, and I don't necessarily want to say set expectations, but not, you know, just be more honest about the timeline based on the tremendous requirements from the CCC and then how those impact the towns as we go through the process.
Yes.
Mike, I saw you unmute yourself. Did you have a question?
Yeah, it's probably a little bit too in the weeds, but I'll ask it anyway. And it just has to do with the construction of the building. Does the building go up first and then you'd pour a concrete slab, or you pour the slab first and put the building on top of it?
The concrete will go first. I'm not sure if Jason Brunswick is still on the line that could talk a little bit more about how that process works.
Yep, I am. And generally the quickest way to do it and the least amount of headaches would be to pour the slab for the building, and then the very minimum you need piers or sonotubes where all of our columns would be on the greenhouse. But the greenhouse doesn't absolutely have to be on a slab, but all of the cement would be poured first. And that way also, if as long as it is poured before winter, we can still construct as long as the foundation is there whenever it's ready.
So Jason, can you talk a little bit more about that process too, kind of like start to finish? Because I don't know that we've, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know that we've had any discussion of greenhouse structures. So it's kind of a new item for us.
Oh, certainly, and you know, I can definitely relate to the timeline being a little aggressive. We've had a few projects in Massachusetts, and regardless of what town it is, there are a lot of steps, certainly, and the steps related to the greenhouse and or head house, you know, seal building, generally. Most of Massachusetts requires wind and snow load to be part of it, and stamp drawings. That part of our process is, you know, generally about 6 weeks to get that accomplished. And then the actual manufacturing of everything that would go out, that part might be another 5 weeks, you know, spec creation and manufacturing and getting it out to Massachusetts, and then the actual construction of the structure, depending on the size, probably averages about 30 to 60 days. So from start to finish, in an ideal scenario, which you know, does not always happen, you know, based on payments and paperwork and things like that, realistically, you're probably in the 5 to 6 months in a pretty tight timeline from, you know, initial deposits through drawings and a building constructed on site.
Okay, and how do you, that the biggest concern, of course, that towns have is in respect to the odor coming from cultivation facilities. So how within a greenhouse structure do you set up an HVAC system, and what type of system is that to mitigate that odor?
So we have a few different options, and the let's see if I got a picture. Here's a good example. That you can all see that, right?
Yes.
Okay. So the little rings on the outside of these exhaust fans it is a spray, and they only kick on when the fans are being used. And you'd have a reservoir of the liquid. It essentially, I guess the biggest way to compare it would be, it is kind of a Febreze for cannabis smell. The companies that are at the forefront of this have been doing business in like waste management and big agriculture for many, many years. So essentially, it breaks down the smells coming out so that the area around isn't going to be affected.
And where are there similar type facilities?
I can speak to that as well.
There you go.
There's,
All right.
there's a facility in Taunton, Fall River, has a greenhouse structure. I know Attleboro, which is not too far, has a full outdoor grow with their dispensary. But the Taunton and Fall River have greenhouse grows, their larger structures. But yes, I know those two towns.
Okay, so and Jason, I'm guessing those weren't from Growspan. It's another organization.
They must be, yeah. They must have been a different greenhouse provider. And just so for the actual specifics of the odor mitigation, Fogco is one that we use. But yes, and I know that the majority of the and it also could have been one of my colleagues. I don't have all of the structures sold in the area, so it very well could be. But yeah, if she's seen and been in the greenhouse grows in Massachusetts, my guess is they would have those systems.
Okay, and do you have any now that you've set up?
Yes, and I can provide that to you or Janice. I don't know of one offhand, but one of my colleagues who does a lot of the larger ones, I know we definitely have some in New England, and I can get that information over.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you. And then I'm sorry, what was the odor mitigation that I just didn't catch the word that you said?
Oh, Fogco, Fogco is one of the top companies that we typically partner with these. There are some other ones where carbon is used, but those systems require more replacing of the carbon source. They're not as exactly as environmentally friendly.
And how often do you have to replace if you go with Fogco?
So these,
what are you replacing, filters or what?
This would be it would be just the liquid that is sprayed when the exhausts are, and it all will depend on the size of the reservoir that the customer ultimately decides on. So it would be replenished, as needed per the size.
Okay, so I'm asking stupid questions. I'm sorry. So you're saying that the liquid sprays as the air is exhausted from the facility?
Exactly. So, because and the only time that the odor would be coming out is through the exhaust fans, because there's only one way that air is moving through there. So yeah, whenever those are on, there is the circular rings are going to be emitting, the odor removal spray.
Okay. And Janice had mentioned earlier about mitigation for light.
Yes.
Can you explain that a little bit or show us if you have a
Definitely.
drawing or a picture?
So this is an internal picture, and this is what is our blackout system. And this serves two purposes. You have, when you get to the flowering stage of a cannabis plant, whether it's hemp or cannabis, you want to be on a 12-12 light cycle to get them to flower. And that's where we bring in the blackout. But also, if you're in the winter months and you need extra light, and you'll have either supplementary LED or high pressure sodium lamps, you're going to want to run those into the later hours in order to prevent any light from getting out. You can also close those blackout curtains so you're not light polluting to the neighbors. And the rest of it, around, you'll see it, the white walls in there. That actually, it's black in the middle. It's a white, black, white. So that interior is all opaque. So no one can actually see into the greenhouse. The only place the sun comes up is in that dome from the roof and then from the ends. But not, in this case, from 12 feet and lower, or 14, depending on the customer's preference.
In the blackout, is that what we're seeing up at the top? Does that slide across somehow?
That is correct. It's in essentially in New England, they would probably be in 8 to 10 foot sections. On our standard, it'd be a 12 foot. But when the blackout is deployed, those they're not that wide in the picture, but they would deploy so that the entire roof is covered in black. They'll meet and there won't be light leaks.
Excellent, thank you.
No problem.
I think those are the questions I had on the greenhouse. Does anyone else have any questions on that? Or any other questions?
I have a few more, if you don't mind.
No, please, Laura, go ahead.
Janice, can you talk about your experience in cultivation, manufacturing of marijuana?
Yeah, so I have some experience in both cultivation and manufacturing, but not on a commercial scale. So I will have a head cultivator and I will have a manufacturer. I plan to, hire the best and hire, being inclusive with my hiring process and selection process. But I do have some experience in, from the legacy market and from, small experience, not commercial, but yes, I will be I have been scouting for those roles, and it's been going great. So I definitely be hiring the best of the best.
Any experience managing a grow facility?
No. No, again, I would definitely have a manager for that. I would not try to take on those roles at all. My role would be more in the business and, the marketing, of course, the licensing and getting things up and running, the real estate. I like to stay with what I know. I mean, I have some area experience in it. I am currently in the program with the Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission, where we are learning every part of the process so that we know enough about it to be able to scout the best candidates for these roles, but I definitely am not looking into, trying to learn these roles on my own. No.
Any licensed cannabis cultivation partners, any advisors that you're working with?
Yes, I like I mentioned, currently working with the Cannabis Control Commission. So I work with multiple, either currently seeking licensees or a provisional license or ready to open. Some have opened. We work together, we meet multiple times a day. Some days I had 2 classes this morning, I believe, and I'm probably missing a class now. So we meet multiple times a day in excess of the class, and we, work together. I have access to advisors. If I have questions, I have access to, experts in almost every part of the field. If I have any questions, and this program is for life. And, I also have access to multi-state operators that I work with, some even in the program, multi-state operators. So it's a very, very, it's been a very effective think tank for getting the programs and everything in order.
And then with regards to the property, do you have site control at this point?
So I do have site control, and as I'm waiting for the response regarding the wetlands, I actually do have site control of a second location. So in case I did have to, and they're both in zoning, I've done the research. I've confirmed these sites with the planning board. Mrs. Giuseppe, I hope I'm saying that correctly. Paul Giuseppe, thank you. It's been very helpful. So I do have letters of intent on both sites. And the other site is no wetlands. It's free and clear. It's a gravel, so it's ready to go. So yes.
Is that one nearby this one?
Yes. The addresses are both on the front of the presentation. Or if you want me to, I can give you the addresses right now.
Oh, I see it. I looked everywhere for that. The only place I saw it was in the HCA.
Yes.
Got it. Thank you.
And still pending on, for getting further in the process is the potential to purchase these. My idea was always to purchase the property. It's very hard for me to even think of leasing. So, potential to purchase the property to be able to have full control. But currently it is a letter of intent to plans on leasing with further in the process.
I think that I am all set. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time and the very in-depth presentation this evening.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much. This is very helpful. I'm glad you're giving me this opportunity to present.
Oh, you're not done yet, Janice. I have some more questions. Sorry. And I just want to clarify. So the drawing that we saw, the site proposal that we saw was for the Hill Street address, right? Not the Mansfield Avenue? Okay.
Yes, so I only just have the letter of intent for Mansfield Avenue. I didn't start with those drawings quite yet because it was already after the time. I'd already submitted everything to you on Wednesday, and I didn't have the letter of intent in time. So I figured that I wouldn't go into too much about that, but I do have the letter of intent. I can submit that to you. And again, I have submitted to get further information on the wetlands on the first property with the town, with Norton. And I'm sorry if I didn't remember who I submitted it with, but
No, that's okay.
yes,
It's fine. There's one of the things that we always talk about on here, how many different people you have to talk to from the town, and how can we find ways to make that a little bit easier for people who are interested in doing business here. So totally understand. So a couple questions that actually came up when you were talking to Laura. How many employees are you intending on having? Because I don't think I realized, and maybe I overlooked this. I didn't realize that you were planning on hiring like a head cultivator and like a lead manufacturer. So what's the number of employees that you expect to have?
So more than likely at least 12. It depends on the facility size, which I'm still, working on, because the site is, either 65,000 square feet or the other site is 100,000 square feet. So I could do, larger build out. So if that's the case, it would be more employees. But, starting with this build out, minimum would be, 12 employees, and more than likely would have to be more than that.
Okay, and that's for the cultivation manufacturing portion?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then
Yes.
and then how many employees do you think that you would need to support the delivery?
So with delivery, that would actually, and I'm sorry, I don't have that in my slide. I should have added that in there. That would actually be a partnership with a company, Plymouth Armor, that is currently working in the medical. And that partnership would allow me to have vehicles within compliance and drivers within compliance. The vehicles I will lease, but they will be their employees. So I wouldn't have, full employees at that time. And again, that's in the beginning, potential for that to change, but
I'm sorry, I do have one more question. Within
yes.
the zip file that we received with your full package, there's a business plan, which I read through. There's a separate business plan, and it's delivery courier only. And I'm wondering, but I know you were interested in delivery operator. I wasn't sure what the second business plan was for.
So if I didn't submit the delivery operator plan as well, I definitely will. I do have a delivery operator plan as well. I had to have separate business plans, with this, and it should not be the courier if that's the one that I submitted. I do have the one for the operator.
Okay.
This is for operator for sure, though.
Okay, Janice, if you just want to send that to me, I'll get it out to the commission.
Okay.
And then in respect to, so you'll be leasing the vehicles, how big do you expect the fleet to be?
So the good thing about this partnership is that, they have, a very large fleet. I don't know their actual number, but I wouldn't have to have a select amount of fleet. I could do that on an as needed basis. So I would have access to their entire fleet if I needed to, say that week have, 10 vehicles, or, if I wanted to, it doesn't have to be where I have a separate fleet that's, at my location or anything like that. This would be their fleet, part of their entire fleet.
So where would the cars be stored?
So the cars would be stored at their location. So the cars would be at my facility during the open hours, and they would have to be back to the facility before the facility closed. If there was anything that they had to bring back, say if there was a delivery that they weren't able to make for whatever reason, they would have to be back to the facility before the facility closed, and the actual fleet would be kept at Plymouth Armor.
And this is allowed by the CCC?
Yes.
Huh. That's interesting. For the hours of operations, you mentioned 24 hours access to the facility, and then you said 8 to 11. What specifically were you looking for 8 to 11? Was that delivery? Was that the cultivation, manufacturing?
Yeah, so that is a request for delivery that does differ slightly from the CCC requirements, but that is what was listed for the town requirements, and it did list that the town requirements would be precedent if there was no conflict. So that is something that can be reviewed. The CCC requirements are 9 p.m.
Yeah, we don't have the 8 to 11, I believe, in our bylaws specific to retail. I don't believe, I think it's actually written for retail. I'd have to look. I apologize. I don't know. I was just looking at it.
For non-retail, this is non-retail.
In the marijuana bylaw?
Yes, I can find it in the town bylaw where I found it before, but it did mention for non-retail. That was why I had suggested it. But again, that's something that we can definitely revisit.
Yeah, I'll double check too, because we talked about hours of operation and specifically for delivery, and we weren't placing anything on. We put that accountability and ownership on the planning board. Is they need to really understand the site, the location, and then determine what the hours of operations are. But I'll double check that. I don't remember, and I'm going to guess anybody on here probably hasn't looked at the bylaw in quite some time, other than the changes we just had to make to it. I think that's all my questions. Are there any other questions from the members? Okay, so Janice, I know there's some more documentation that you're going to get to us. There are some things that we'll need to know too. So I think probably from a go forward perspective, I can touch base with you afterwards once we get some of these minutes together, and then just compile a list of some of the items that we just need to understand further. And then I'll ask the members of the commission if there are any questions that come to mind that we haven't discussed tonight that you want to know, to send those to me separately, and I can include those on behalf of the EDC. And then, we'll talk about next steps in that regard. But I anticipate that we'll probably have another conversation with you once we get some more detailed information, and then a vote at a later time. Okay, anything else? Okay, well, great.
Thank you.
Denise, thank you so much for sharing all this information with us and being interested in doing business here. And like I said, I'll reach back out and make sure that you have the information for next steps.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Thank
Great.
you all. I appreciate
Great.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Have a great
thank you.
night.
You too.
Good night.
Thanks. All right. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, next on the agenda is the TIF, and Mike, you want to give us a quick
Sure.
overview and introduction to who we're talking to tonight?
Thank you for having us on. And I know Jeff O'Neill from Condyne is on, and Zia Hajayev is also on, and I'm sure he can introduce his team that's with him and give an explanation of the project. We're looking forward, this national company that is looking to locate in Norton. And so we anticipate a sustained member of our community, and like to have them present.
Great. Hi, Michael. I'll introduce myself and let the team introduce themselves as well. I'm Zia Hajiev. I'm senior manager with Ernst & Young EY out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So happy to be here this evening, and thank you for allowing us to speak today.
Hello,
Hey,
my
thank
name
you for being
is,
here.
hi, my name is Jacob Williams. I'm with the Home Depot out of Atlanta, Georgia. And I'd also like to thank the town of Norton and the Economic Development Commission for the time to present this project for your consideration. Thank you.
Thanks, Jacob.
Hi, this is Jessica Crime as Senior Manager at Ernst & Young located in Boston and supporting the Home Depot team.
Hey, Jessica, thank you.
Hi, my name is Aubrey Halchins, and I am also supporting the Home Depot team with Ernst & Young based out of the Cincinnati office. Nice to meet you all.
Hi, Aubrey, thank you.
Great. And Jeff, if you're still on, if you want to introduce yourself as well.
Sure, I'm still here. So just want to make sure the team was done. So both I'm on and Dawn O'Neill is on as well. So we're the two principals with Condyne and Blue Star Business Park, and the owners of Lot 7A, Building 7, where the project would be located.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, if I could, we also have Kevin Koros from Mass Office of Business Development on too.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here just to listen in, but excited about the opportunity.
Excellent. If I may, Renee, I will go ahead. We'll put together a short slide deck to allow us to facilitate the conversation today. Certainly open to any questions, but I'll go ahead and try to share my screen. Let me know if you can see it, and we'll get started.
We can see it.
Great. Thank you. So the company is a Fortune 100 company with over 400,000 employees in North America. They also have about over 60 distribution centers at this point. They have a footprint in all 50 states, including Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands, and Guam. They're also in Canada, as well as in Mexico. We're here to speak to you about the company's supply chain investment initiative. This is a strategic initiative. It's a multi-year North American supply chain expansion plan. The expected outcome of this significant investment by the company are direct-to-consumer and delivery options for both businesses and personal residences. Currently, the company is evaluating various distribution center concepts, and really the impact of those concepts and how they're going to serve their customer demand is very important. What also is very important is the Northeast region. They're currently considering several concepts that could potentially go into the Northeast region of the US. I will turn this over to Jacob Williams to talk more about the proposed project and how that fits within the overall supply chain investment initiative.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Zia. I guess at a high level, this facility that we are proposing and would like your feedback on is actually a last mile facility for the Home Depot. So currently, customer deliveries that are established at the store level are most likely delivered from the store in the area where the customer makes the purchase. And this facility will be an aggregation opportunity to consolidate last mile deliveries for Southern Massachusetts and the Rhode Island market. At a very high level, we're looking at a 100,000 square foot distribution facility or delivery center. As Zia mentioned, there are sites we're evaluating throughout Southern Massachusetts and into the Providence market. This particular project that we're evaluating has a total estimated project cost of around $11.4 million. That includes the construction of the building, the detailed investment put into the project from Home Depot at $1 million, and the very specific tenant improvement concepts that Jeff and his team at Condyne will incorporate into their building, which is the site improvement line. From a project timeline perspective, although we'd like to get this building open as fast as humanly possible, we are envisioning a Q2 of 22 delivery for operation. So that would be next spring or summer. I think this proposed site plan kind of shows some of the existing facilities in the Blue Star industrial project here. Building 7 highlighted on the top is the proposed site for the 100,000 square foot facility. This is a little bit more of a detailed site plan. How the process will work is this building, Renee, actually won't house inventory. There will be maybe 1 or 2 53-foot trailers that deliver to this building. And most of the dock doors, I think there's about 25 dock doors on the building, 26 dock doors on the building.
Yep.
And these will be consolidated box trucks that go to make deliveries to customer home and job site locations. So the 53-foot trailers bring the product in. It's separated, aggregated, and put onto the box trucks and are shipped out for daily deliveries. The goal is to turn the doors 2 times per day. So an early morning delivery, they go out and make their deliveries, 2 drivers per vehicle. The drivers come back. Hopefully they can get loaded up and maybe make an afternoon or evening delivery. If not, when the first trucks are out making their morning deliveries, the next round of box trucks will be loaded and ready for kind of a lunchtime start to get the product out for the same day. And then the associate parking is on the bottom right-hand corner. This is, I think, just a kind of a high-level view of what the building could look like. The inside of the facility is actually pretty basic. The office will be about 4,000 square feet inside the space. Each dock door has safety protocols in place. There's dock levelers, there's dock lights, there's fans to ensure comfortable working conditions for all the associates and drivers. And there's full lighting and fans that keep the inside of the delivery center at a standard temperature. From a job creation perspective, this building will not be taking away any existing Home Depot jobs from the community. These are net new jobs. There will be 25 to 28 Home Depot employees. Those are, full benefited associates on an average wage of $21 per hour. Benefits include 401k matching, employee stock purchase opportunities, dental, vision, and the rest of the full array of medical benefits. There will also be approximately 70 third-party drivers who are associated with the delivery agent. As I mentioned, there will be 2 drivers per truck making deliveries to customers' homes. And if we hit our targets of turning the doors 2 to 3 times per day, there will be upwards of 80 required delivery agents to make those deliveries. And then I think Jeff and Don provided some estimates. The construction of the facility will utilize around 200 construction jobs.
Correct. And that's based on the projects that we did across the street on buildings 4 and 5 that are under construction now.
Great. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Jacob and Jeff. So in terms of some of the new tax revenue for the town, obviously this is currently vacant land. The annual tax on that land is about $17,000 a year. So we try to project what the proposed tax could look like, even with the potential TIF. The project site would generate about $770,000 in real property tax revenue over a 10-year period. And then in connection with the equipment that would be installed at this facility, we'll be looking at about another $90,000. So certainly it would be a great benefit for the town as well as the company. And then in addition to the property taxes, we would also anticipate excise tax on trucks. We haven't been able to estimate that yet, but obviously there would be trucks and associated excise tax. And then in addition to tax impact, we would look at other benefits for the town. There would be local truck storage and maintenance. Trucks are owned by a third-party logistics company, but would be stored locally and maintained locally. There would be local hotel use for travel, anyone visiting the facility. Obviously, local restaurant and food service for employees would be utilized. And then in terms of building maintenance, we'll be looking to hire local landscaping, local snow plowing, and some of the janitorial services. So Jacob, on the next slide, we wanted to highlight what it is that Home Depot does in the communities that they operate. They're a great corporate citizen, and we thought it would be good for the town to see some of the initiatives that they've taken the lead on. So Jacob, if you don't mind to walk us through this slide, that would be great.
Oh, you bet, Zia. This is a great privilege to share this information. Home Depot is it's a value-based organization. We have core values that you're kind of ingrained with from day one when you start with a company. And one of those core values that the company truly lives up to is giving back to the community. Home Depot has kind of consolidated their efforts in giving back to really focus on veterans and rebuilding homes and ensuring safe living conditions for our veterans. And then the other kind of component that Home Depot is focused on right now is training the skilled tradespeople for construction related jobs. From a veterans commitment perspective, the Home Depot made a commitment and they're gonna donate through materials and labor $500 million to veterans rebuild projects by the year 2025, which is pretty remarkable scenario and something I've had the privilege to work on as well here in the Atlanta community. Secondly, as I mentioned, there's a $50 million commitment to grow skill sets for what we envision to be a labor gap of the future in the construction trades and driving skilled labor in those particular efforts. So at a very high level, it's a great honor to share this slide and to share with you, Home Depot's ability to give back to our local communities and our veterans. Each facility has the opportunity to do multiple community service events to support these initiatives throughout the year. So it's a pretty cool opportunity and a very nice, very nice thing we can share with the communities which we operate in.
Thank you, Jacob. To finalize our presentation today, we wanted to also stress the importance of various startup and operating cost reduction opportunities through incentive programs. In this instance, TIF exemption would be very beneficial for the company as they evaluate the overall project return on investment and the ability for the project to come to Norton. So we would greatly appreciate your support and open to any questions, and certainly looking forward to the continued dialogue with the community.
Zia, just before you end, I'd also like to add to the board and the commission and the town also is that, within the next 60 days, if this site is awarded, we'd love to pull the building permit, and the building permit fees related to this project are probably exceeding $160,000 to $170,000. So that's on top of the minor tax that we're paying on the land that it's assessed now. That instant permit fee would go immediately to the town within the next 60 to 90 days.
Thank you, Jeff. This concludes our presentation. I'll keep the slide on, but certainly welcome any questions or comments.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate the information. I'll open it up to the commission for any questions.
Sure. This is Mike Massini. Just a couple quick questions for the group. Thank you for the presentation. Very informative. A quick question on the vehicles, transportation vehicles. Mentioned there's an excise tax that would go to the town. So would those vehicles be owned by Home Depot, registered in Norton, or would they be owned by the transportation service?
They would be owned by the delivery agent who Home Depot partners with. So those would not be Home Depot owned vehicles.
Okay, and just so I'm clear, so the excise tax benefiting the town of Norton, would that transportation company have to be registered in the town of Norton for that tax to be tax-based to hit the town's books?
Yeah, we would have to evaluate that further as in terms of where they would be registered. Our expectation is that the trucks would be on site and some of them would be garaged there as well. We expect, and Jeff, I'd be curious to get your thoughts as well, as we talked about this before, the other operators in the park. So we would expect that those would be local.
Whether the trucks are registered in wherever they are at that point in time, but yes, the correct process is they have to be garaged, and where they are garaged is where the excise tax is directed to. But they have to be recorded that way. So usually the third-party companies that come in, if they're parking the vehicles at this location, that's tendered their garage. They would have to direct the excise taxes to the municipality that they're parked in.
Okay, thank you.
And Mike, I believe the delivery agents, the trucks that support this building will exclusively support this building.
Okay, and is that arrangement with third-party transportation companies fairly standard? That's the business, that's the operating model that is Home Depot's preference?
That's our current model.
Okay, great. One other quick question about the size of the building. I think you've answered it. You're looking for 100,000 square foot facility. We understand this building could potentially be built up to roughly 130,000 square feet. So you've opted not to build certainly the biggest footprint that you can. And it sounds like, really the inventory is there for literally a matter of hours. It wouldn't be, there's no staging of inventory. You don't need to build the building up, certainly. Trucks come in one side of the building. materials offloaded or pallets are offloaded, staged to, to the other side of the building in the bays, and ultimately forklifts would load, and it's just a constant turn of inventory. So you don't anticipate ever needing to expand the building beyond the 100,000 square feet?
I definitely can't say that this building will not be expanded in the long term, Mike, but right now this is the volume projections that we have and the number of dock doors for this particular type of facility. Frankly, the number of dock doors are more important than the actual square footage of the building. But if there's anything that's constant at Home Depot, it's change. And so this facility could be, repurposed for another use. But right now, what it's currently being established for and what it will open for next spring, hopefully, is a final mile delivery center.
Thank you, Jacob. Appreciate the information. Very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet, Mike.
Other questions? Okay, I have a couple questions if I may ask. Can you, and I don't know who to direct this to, if it's Zia or Jacob, but at what point are you guys in this process?
We're moving down the path right now. We're working very closely with Jeff and Don with the Condyne Capital team. So we are at a point where we are hoping to get a favorable decision from your team, and we are in a position in probably 60 to 90 days to be able to have a fully executed long-term lease on the property.
Okay, and I know that you said that you're looking at the Northeast region. How many other sites are you looking at?
We have about 10 other sites we're looking at, 10 other facilities that will be required throughout the region.
Oh, 10 that you're required to, so you're actually building 10 more within New England or Northeast?
Yeah, there will be about 10 additional facilities in the Northeast.
Okay, and for those 10 facilities, how many locations do you have identified as a potential location for siting?
We have probably 3 so far. We're under construction. This is, Renee, this is going to be a kind of a hub and spoke system. There's going to be a hub in Tewksbury, which will be the stocking location. And then this proposed facility will be the spoke, and there will be multiple spokes within the Boston market to service the demand centers.
Okay. So of those 10, you've only identified 3 and you still need to get the other 7 spokes?
Yeah. There's there are some other spokes throughout New England that are tied to a stocking facility in New Jersey.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, great. I think those are the only questions that I had. There are other questions from the EDC? Any other members? Mike Units, is there documentation that you wanted to share with us as well? You're muted, Mike. I'm just going to wear that on. For those of you who haven't attended a meeting with Mike Units on Zoom, we say at least 5 times during the meeting. You're muted, Mike.
Yeah, I can share what we're looking at for a TIF proposal. So the proposal would be for a 10-year TIF. And so the first year would be 80%, and then it would progress down. And you can look at the savings to the company and the taxes to the town and see that after 5 years, the savings to the company becomes less than the tax value to the town. We start eclipsing that. So as was said earlier, the the benefit to the town in taxes over the 10 years would be $768,597. And the benefit to the company, $784,123. So if you add in the base, current base value tax to the TIF over the life of the 10 years, the town would be receiving $943,027 in tax revenue. So I believe it's a reasonable TIF and will benefit the company and the town. And obviously, in the long run, the town is really going to see a benefit as we move forward in the last 5 years, and then the TIF when the TIF ends. So I think, and I was excited when I spoke with the company about the benefits, and I know Estelle, our veterans agent, is excited about the support for veterans that the company has shown that they have done over the years, and that's something that she was excited about. And I think it would be a great partner for the community, and we hope that Jeff will pull that permit before June 30th, so we can add that 160 to 170,000 to free cash certification for next year.
I like how you threw that last part in there, Mike.
Thanks. No pressure.
Right. Hey, Mike, can you tell me that this looks like what you presented to us before, but can you just clarify if there were any changes from what we saw at the last meeting?
No, the percentages are the exact same.
Okay. Any questions from the EDC?
I do have one additional question, Madam Chair, if I could, and if this was spoken, yeah, I apologize, I missed it. I believe in sort of when we saw the original proposal, I think it was 2 weeks ago, there was a question that was raised around what kind of a lease arrangement would Home Depot be entering with Blue Star, and can we just kind of cover that again, if we don't mind?
Sure. I can cover that. I'm working on it right now. So it's a 10-year lease commitment with 2 5-year options to renew.
Okay. Thank you, Jacob.
Yep.
Madam Chair, I just had one quick question. And again, as Mike said, I might have missed it. I'm sorry. Just for the operating hours, I did hear that you wanted to do possibly like 2 different times when you send out the vehicles. Is there a general time that you'd be starting and ending, or is it all just based on products and need?
Yeah, that's a great question, Christine. And we try to start our morning deliveries around 5 a.m. So the facility opens very early in the morning with the hopes of getting that truck back to the facility to be able to make another delivery if required for the day. So the building will open very early around 5 a.m. And depending on how late customers are open to receiving deliveries, which is kind of a moving target right now, the facility most likely will be closed by around 6 or 7 p.m.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Mike Units or Jeff, can you guys talk to I know, and I have this in a recent email, I believe Paul sent it to me, but what are the operating hours now of the existing buildings? Because they are different, right?
The operating hours vary by tenant, but the park was designed for a 24/7 access and its close proximity to the highway. So all truck traffic goes out Leonard, immediately takes a left on Route 123 right to the interchange. So no trucks are allowed to go further up residential neighborhoods or anywhere else.
And the traffic signals were being installed today.
Correct. Right.
Is that the traffic signals at Leonard or 495?
At Leonard.
Okay. But how's 495 look? Because I saw the poster up on one side.
They have a lot of the traffic signals up. Obviously, they're not operating yet, but most of them are up.
Okay. And I'm going to my fellow members, I know I sent this out recently
Want me to stop sharing this?
to the EDC. Yeah, that's fine, Mike, unless anybody wants to see it up. I'm trying to find it because Paul did send us. I just wanted to look what was there before. Let me just one moment. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mike.
Madam Chair, while you're looking for that, I just wanted to quickly correct Jeff. There'll be one stop before the truck hits the highway. They have to stop at Dunkin' Donuts for their coffee.
Now, I don't know. Can that small drive area take the?
Well,
have the trucks
Mike,
through there?
if we could get the retail going, then we could stop that from going across the street. So hopefully they could take a left into Blue Star.
There you
and then
go.
exit.
There you go. And I can say that because I used to drive a truck at one point in my career, and if we didn't do Dunkin' Donuts by 5 a.m., then we weren't charged enough to do our delivery. So,
Well, we hope to get that new road going in across the street, so they'd be able to drive right across and into a Dunkin' Donuts.
Good. Well, good. We're excited to have them. So hopefully this comes together. So it's been a little work in process, and we're anxious to get the next building going. As you can see, building 4 is finishing up its TI that is fully leased. Building 5 should be fully leased, I'd probably say within the next 60 days.
Great. And I actually just found that email. So what I had from Paul was buildings 4 and 5 have operating hours 24/7, and then 1, 2, and 3 are 7 to 11 p.m. I don't remember where each of the locations are, but just to share that with the group. Mike, what is the name of this TIF? Mike Units?
Right now, we're calling it Project Northeast, correct? Am I right in that?
That's correct. Very creative.
Okay, any other questions from the EDC? Laura, did you have a question?
Nope, I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay, if there's no further questions, somebody raised the hand. I can't tell. Kevin, do you have a question or comment?
I didn't want to be scolded for not unmuting myself. So
Oh, come on.
I just wanted to say that as far as the EACC, the Economic Assistance Coordinating Council, who ultimately approves TIFs, they meet quarterly. So the next meeting is in June, and then the next one after that is in September. The lead time for the meetings, there's a for a local only TIF, it's roughly a 1 month lead time. So for the June meeting, you would need to have paperwork in by May, and for the September meeting, obviously by August. If everything is not done, signed, sealed, delivered with a bow on it, the EACC will often vote conditional approvals contingent upon receipt of all documents. So we won't be on the critical path, but and we're there to help, just make sure the process goes as smoothly as possible. So if there's any specific questions about the program or how it flows, feel free either directed directly to me or through Mike, and he and I are in fairly regular contact on a variety of things.
Yes, Kevin's been very helpful, and Kevin, I'll let you know our town meeting is May 8th.
That actually is before the due date for the paperwork
We knew that.
for the June meeting. So
What's the actual
That's
due
the
date?
goal.
Because the rain date of the meeting is the week after.
I think you're still good. I'd have to
Okay.
pull up my calendar here, but yeah, I think you're good either way.
Okay, I'm not opposed to meeting in the rain, but we have canceled a meeting because people thought others were going to get wet.
And again, worst case is, they would vote a conditional approval, pending town meeting approval of the TIF.
Great, thank you. Anything else? Okay, the chair will entertain a motion to support the Project Northeast TIF as presented tonight.
So moved.
Is that Laura?
That was me.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I'll second.
Okay, got a second from Denise. And any further discussion? Okay, give me a second. I have to go. The virtual calls require a little bit more. 3, 4. Okay, motion is second. Roll call vote. Laura,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Denise,
Yes.
and I too vote yes. So that's unanimous from the EDC to support the TIF. And again, want to thank you guys for the presentation tonight, your time, sharing the information that you did, and looking forward to a partnership, a future partnership.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and all the members of the committee. Thank you.
Right, thank you
Thank
guys.
you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Yes,
Have a great
thank
night.
you.
Bye
Have
now.
a
Night.
nice
See you
evening.
next week.
Night.
Thanks.
Bye.
So much.
Mike, you're staying on, right?
Yes.
Okay. I think you're going to be up next. Okay, we're moving our way through. I can't tell what time I am having like this blurry screen issue, so I can't read portions of my monitor. Next up on the agenda, an update on marijuana establishments. So I did send to you what was submitted as final version to Town Council for the changes in the bylaw. It includes changes to the overall definitions which is a delete and replace of the existing marijuana establishment definition to a new one from the CCC with some additional language that allows any changes in the future not to prompt a change to the bylaw. The second item that was in there is a change in the requirements for the building permit. If you guys remember, we spoke of this before, where the way that we wrote it, they needed to get a final license from the CCC before they can get the building permit, but the CCC has to do an inspection of the building before the final license, so that wasn't helping anyone. So we did change that where the language, and I'm going to paraphrase here, they cannot open until they have their final license, and they can't apply for a building permit until they have site plan and special permit approval. So those two items are going. And then the third item, or included within that second item, are updated definitions within the marijuana bylaw itself. So some of the new terms that hadn't been referenced before, like delivery, operator, I'm trying to think, there were like 5 of them, and I don't remember them, but I did send it and reviewed at the public hearing last night with the planning board. So the final change on there was to delete one of the bylaws that refers to a temporary moratorium on marijuana establishments from like 2016 and expired in 2018. So all of those were supported by the planning board. So they'll go to the select board for vote and support for the town meeting on May 8th. But we look good there. I don't anticipate any changes, but it is still with town council. They'll do a final review of the warrant beforehand. The other item, I don't know if I sent this along, but Solar Retail Norton has their provisional license, so they're good to go. They've been working with a company on the building. They'll be applying for their site plan approval and special permit within the next couple of weeks. So they're moving forward. We did just sign, the board just signed the amendment for Exit 10 LLC for the change in member ownership of shares. I have the language wrong, so you guys know what I mean. So they have that in hand, and they'll move forward with the CCC and their discussions with the establishment at this point. What else was there? I think that's it. Mike and I have been working right now. The HCA with Lucky Green Ladies is back with her counsel. I haven't received any updates. He just confirmed that he received it. So Mike and I reviewed it and then had a discussion with town council and sent some questions back on additional information that's needed. So that one's moving forward as well. And then we spoke about briefly, Mike and I we reviewed the HCA with Oasis of Tranquility and sent comments back, have an updated HCA. We haven't met on it yet, but there's quite a bit of information I think that we need to to get beforehand. So at least from the EDC's perspective, we need to get beforehand, and then we'll move forward. And welcome back, Paul.
Hi.
Paul, you missed like almost exactly like well, you did miss the entire TIF discussion, which I'm sure
I
that
can't say I missed it, but oh, I'm sorry.
right, exactly.
How did it go?
Really well, really well. They I thought they had a good plan. It sounds positive. I was happy to know too, and part of that, I don't know how you guys felt, but you know, the fact that we're kind of in their beginning stages, right, in their overall project expansion.
Right.
So I think that's positive for the town.
Mhm.
Jeff certainly seems like he wants to move on it pretty quickly, and they have a pretty short window. You know, they're looking to have fully executed documents 60 and 90 days. So I think that's a positive thing for us.
Yeah, and we'll work with Jeff. You know, there's a minor amendment to the approved plan for Building 7. So we'll work to navigate with Planning Board on that.
Is it just planning board, or is that something that has to go in front of the town?
No. And in fact, we expect that it'll be considered a minor modification, which wouldn't even be a public hearing.
Okay, good.
No, but the planning board has to determine that it's a minor modification, so.
Sure. So we supported it unanimously.
Hey, this is Denise. I apologize, I made this a few minutes ago, but I was typing while you were talking, so I missed it. Did you say Solar Norton was moving forward with their building construction? Is that what
No,
you're
I
saying?
said, so they got their provisional license, so they'll be
Okay.
filing for their site plan approval and special permit in the coming weeks.
Okay.
I say filing, applying.
Yeah, I'll let you know when we get that, but we're still waiting to coordinate with Andre to make sure all of the town reviewing departments review it before it gets submitted. You know, just to make sure that different issues can be addressed up front.
Mm-hmm. No, I definitely like that plan. And Paul, I know we spoke about kind of a marijuana 101 back with the planning board. I meant to mention it last night, but I was exhausted. I don't know how you got, I don't know how much longer you guys went, but I can tell you it was tough for me to stay awake to wait for your text.
Well, I've mentioned that to the chair, and he thought that was a good idea to do, and probably combine it with Andre giving them an overview before the board actually sees the submitted plans, just to get some level of comfort. And especially since you know, April 10th is the election, we will have 2 new members after the election. So I think, especially with 2 new members, it'll be really good for them to get an overview. There'll probably be other material we'll need to send to them, but
yeah,
the chair was fine with us, you know, doing this preliminary work prior to the submittal of the plans.
Okay. And since right now those 2 seats we have no one running for them, right?
No, but I understand there are some write-in candidates that are potentially happening. If not, or if there's only one, then your April 15th board meeting would have to be a joint meeting with the planning board to appoint the vacant seat or seats.
Right. And I was just going to say to talk to Mike and your chair of the planning board to make sure that actually I you know, get on the books, make sure everybody's able to attend first, right?
Yeah, it's on there. We talked about that at the end of the meeting, and it's on their calendars now. But they're aware that if you know, that there are write-ins, so the meeting might not happen.
Okay, good. I'd much rather somebody be elected into the position to take it for the full term than otherwise. Perfect. Okay, Mike, anything else on the marijuana establishments?
No, I just got an email that I'll call someone tomorrow, someone else that's looking to do a cultivation facility, I believe. So I'll call them tomorrow and find out and see if we can arrange a call with them at some point.
Okay. Speaking of which, Paul and I had another, well, Paul, I don't know if you connected. I had a second discussion with, I'm looking at the wrong notes, with a gentleman who is interested in a cultivation facility here as well, a smaller cultivation facility. And actually is part of the, I can't remember his name.
I think it was Tony.
Tony, was it Tony?
I think. Let me check.
No, I'm going to check too. I'm going to find it. I mentioned it previously to you guys in a meeting because he had reached out to both Paul and I via email, and then I connected with him, gave him some information, and then he just called out of the blue, which is great. But he's looking to move forward, and he's looked at some areas within the town already. How about Tom with Master Remedies?
That may be it.
He's a social equity program certificate holder. And actually I thought he was cultivation, but I have written here delivery operator.
There was a delivery operator as well.
For both? Okay. And he was looking for a 2,500 square foot facility with parking. So anyway, lots of things. You know, the good thing is we're having discussions, so I think that's beneficial. But what came out of that conversation, and why Mike is here, is because we were, you know, after our conversation on town properties that we had a couple weeks ago, one of the things came up at the select board about the town-owned properties and how like we could position those to not be town-owned properties. And Brad had brought up the option of the town keeping the properties and leasing it. And Mike is going to have to explain this much better than I'm explaining it, but it had really good benefits from a revenue perspective. And the thing that's a little different with the town-owned properties, because they have to be auctioned, right? There's a process behind that, even though you can still essentially, I don't want to say enter into an agreement because that's not what it is, but you know, you can auction a property with a buyer in mind. But Mike, can you speak a little bit to that, what Brad was discussing and some of the potential opportunities we would have around the town-owned properties?
Yep. So for disposal of property for communities, as I was saying at the selectmen's meeting, it's kind of crazy, I think, but we're not allowed to list property like everyone else can. So if we're going to dispose of property, as Renee said, we have to auction it. If we're going to lease property, we can put out an RFQ. And when you put out an RFQ, you can have an idea of what you would like to see on the property. So you can rank the proposals when they come back based on what you want to see on the property. And whatever proposal you get that is advantageous to the community, that's the one that you would lease the property, allow them to lease the property, and then you'd open up the price proposal and see what they're looking to pay. But through that process, you can pick what you'd like to see on the property.
So that gives us a little more flexibility, essentially, Mike, right?
Right, yep.
And
it's done a lot with, I know when I worked in Holbrook, we had an old school that we put out, and we wanted, wanted to see decent office space in there. So we set those parameters, and that's a way that you can kind of regulate what you want to see.
And one of the things like this, it came up too, because one of the properties that we were talking about, if you guys remember, was a property across from Cumbies where the old Parks and Rec is. And what was being discussed was Mike, was it a grant that was received for the storage?
Yeah, the selectmen signed an agreement with Massachusetts Fish and Game to put a car top launch on that property. So they would put in a parking lot and a car top launch so people could put kayaks or rowboats in there.
Yeah, so it would allow us then to essentially have both, right? We could have a business there and then have that in the back.
Mhm.
So it gives us a little more flexibility. And then also too, what was discussed, because then the question came up about, well, do we want to have to manage this? And I think Brad was speaking about like different lease agreements that you can have where we don't become, like, we're not a maintenance authority. Mike, I don't know if you know more about that.
Yeah, so when you would do the lease, you'd set up the lease so that whoever leases the property would be responsible for all the maintenance and upkeep to the property. I know there's certain things like that, like post offices. There's a lot of investors. The post office doesn't own any of their buildings. And when they lease them, I think all that the owner is responsible for is the roof and the windows. Other than that, it's all up to the post office.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I learned that because Holbrook was looking to do a new post office of my mother owned land. And I said, well, how about here? And well, we can't let her be involved in this one. We already have investors, but she can invest in one we're building in South Dakota. I'm like, really? What are you talking about? They just pool. A lot of athletes, professional athletes are in consortiums and they own post offices. And they just, it's guaranteed money. They just, they don't have to worry about any upkeep.
And looking in the Holbrook Sun Archives, and the new post office opened its doors on Plymouth Street in Holbrook on Monday, March 30th, 1992.
Thanks, Peter. Okay. Any questions, guys? I thought it was a pretty interesting conversation to share back with the EDC with us. Okay, great. The next item, so we have on here the what time are we at? We're at 9 o'clock, so we're probably just going to have time to talk about this quickly. The SERPED business survey. Mike, I don't know, and unless you're interested in this, feel free to drop off. I know that your meeting schedule lately is ridiculous. Paul, however, I think you need to stay for a moment.
Stay, Paul. Bye. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Sorry, Paul.
Yeah, no worries.
It won't be past 10 like last night by any means. So I don't know. So Sandy sent along the business survey, and I know that this really is like a Sandy and Michael conversation because we were waiting for the business survey before he was moving on with his. I don't know if you guys had a chance to take a look at that, but that was nothing similar to the business survey that we had been talking about. Did anyone have time to look at some of the questions? Like, it focused more on what seemed to be impact of the pandemic, if they were seeking loans, if they had reduced their staff. Go ahead, Denise.
I was gonna say that was my takeaway as well. That was related to the pandemic and where the best focus would be for assistance from communities. And it wasn't about like types of businesses or anything like that. So it wasn't, you're right, it wasn't what we were talking about.
Okay, and I thought too, the interesting thing is I thought there were more responses from non-business owners, right? So there were a lot of questions that had limited responses because of that, like they were tailored to the audience. I don't know if you guys noticed that too. But Paul, I don't know if you've had a chance to look at that. I think you may have sent the link at one point as well, because I thought when I searched it in my email, it came up a couple of times, but I didn't know if that was something that, and the reason I asked you to stay on, something that we would leverage for that rapid recovery grant, like if it's a data point for us.
I have to admit I haven't looked at it. I'm pulling it up now. We probably wouldn't be able to use it for the grant. In fact, because there's another survey that we are asking businesses to complete that the state is asking. So in fact, we've been getting notices out this week to businesses in that district. But my apologies, I forgot to look at this.
No, it's okay. And please don't apologize.
This would be way beyond the geography of the district, so.
Yes.
But
Oh,
they
you're right.
probably are gonna end up overlapping with, what their issues are.
Mhm.
Suspending in-person operations, a lot did. I'm hearing that from businesses on West Main Street. That they've had to reduce their staffing.
I think there was there a question about the ability to operate outside? Operate's not the right word, but because it wasn't just around restaurants, it was around all businesses, I think. I can't remember. This is like when I look at something too early and then I don't remember it when we actually come to discuss it. Okay, well, if we can't use it, that's fine. I just thought, we'd have a quick discussion on that. Can you remind me, so for the rapid recovery grant, are we looking at 123, like from the center of town down to the Attleboro line? Is that the geography?
To home plate, so to Olympia.
The home plate. Okay.
Yeah, that's a pretty long distance. I mean, that's probably right at the outer edge, but because we don't really have any big concentration of businesses, if we had just done the village center, it would have just been too few.
Mhm.
So we coordinated with the consultant last week and just decided to go ahead with that full area. So it brings in about 90 different businesses.
Oh, wow, really?
Scattershot, though. It's not, it's a scatter shot between business and residential with a few areas where you have pockets of it. So.
Okay. Well, good. Did they give you any sense of a timeline?
Yeah, the state does. The state's given us a timeline, so I'll need to share that with you. It's pretty quick, but ultimately we're looking at August, having a plan completed.
Mm-hmm.
So in the beginning, right now, this is the fact-finding mode. So this survey that we're wanting people to get will tell us just a lot of the same questions as I'm seeing in Serpids. How are you affected by it? And tell us about your current conditions. What does the streetscape look like? Which, spoiler alert, terrible. And then what is, they want people to ask about their internal, the interior of their businesses and questions like that. So, then, initially it's just businesses telling us, in the next 2.5 weeks, what is the, to complete the survey. And then after that, the bulk of the time will be, trying to solicit ideas from businesses as to how do they think, what actions could be taken to help the business. And I would also say, how can we make the district work better too?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But ultimately, I'll send you all I should have done that.
I know you sent the training to us, but I didn't know if a timeline came through.
There's a handout that they gave, and I certainly meant to, but my brain is scattershot. So
it's okay. You're going to send it as first floor scanner? Yeah, if you can send that, I think that would be great. And we're still looking to kind of partner on that and help with resources. Okay.
Yeah, I need to talk more with the consultant about your role. I brought it up, but certainly helping with implementation, because again, the plan is just adopted in August, but the whole point of the plan is to get things happening on the ground. So I think I envision this as us working with businesses as a partnership.
Right.
Maybe more, maybe it's broader than that, but it can't just be the town. But there's money behind it that the state has authorized for this program for, it's not going to be a heck of a lot that we get. but it's there. So we would need to determine with the group, with the businesses, what would be the best use of the funding that could be available to us. And then we'll have to chip away at it. There will likely be things that people say that town regulations are having an effect on them. You know, we need to hear that, right? We need to hear what's not working as well as what is working.
Right. No, I think that's great. And I know we talked about this before. I think it really it goes into what we've talked about from a priority perspective and getting to know the businesses more, and having that partnership and, understanding pain points or what we can do to support them, or, just, have conversations. And I think there's so many opportunities. So this just kind of leads into that.
Yeah, because the few business owners I've been able to talk to in the last couple of days, trying to go out and hand out the flyers for the survey, some haven't been hurt by it, but others have had cuts to employees. They've seen their revenues dropping, and which is sad, and but unfortunately expected. But we want to help them recover from it, but also how can we become much more resilient the next time something else unexpected happens?
Right. Exactly.
Renee, what's the name of that grant again?
The Rapid Recovery Grant. Is there more to it, Paul?
Yeah, Rapid Recovery Grant.
Okay. Man, Denise, you were like on top of it. Hey, Denise, speaking of, did you get the email for the access to the meeting minutes?
I did, but I haven't had a chance to try it out yet.
No, that's fine. We can connect offline. I just want to make sure. I've been meaning to shoot you a text to see if you got it.
Yep.
Awesome. Cool. Paul, you don't know from the timeline, like when, I'm just thinking of coming up, like if we want to talk about scheduling, or if it looks like on the timeline that we might need to meet more, we might need to adjust our meetings. If we know any of that, I think it'd be helpful. But if it's too soon, that's fine also.
Yeah, that I don't know, and that'll be something to work with the consultant. That we'll need to work with the consultant on. And I'm, just thinking that it might be less about the EDC meeting more frequently, but all of us taking on individual actions, whatever they may be, and work, whatever you're able to do. Again, that'll be, I think a conversation with the consultant to figure that out, what they want. But again, this is much more of a simple, impactful, kind of quick hitting process, not a long drawn out, nothing that's going to take a year. It's got to be done by August. So,
right.
The process is just going to be that, pretty fluid. So, but I think the question will be how many resources can we dedicate to the development of the plan and then the implementation of it.
Sure. And our biggest thing is doing this and not having quorum or an official subcommittee, like making sure that what we do is coordinated, but that we come back and still meet our open meeting requirements. And I'll be the first to volunteer if anybody needs to go like on site to any sort of food or beverage establishments. I'll sign up for that. It's a good after hours activity.
That's right. Plus, I walked by 123 lots of times.
I'll join you and sit 6 feet away from you.
Sounds good.
Oh my. What?
Awesome. Anything else?
2019.
Anything you guys have for any agenda items for the next meeting? I'm asking now only because I just saw the time. It's almost 9:15, so I don't want to keep us any longer. I know we still have not gotten to the objectives or priorities, but I think we're through different initiatives. We're going to hit that.
Do we want to revisit the business survey that we were, I think, conceptually thinking about.
Yeah, the next meeting, you mean?
Yeah.
Denise? Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll see if I can connect to Michael. I never actually heard from Michael.
He sent a message saying he was going to be late, but I haven't seen him pop in.
Yeah, I haven't either. It's hard though. We're sharing screens so much. It's hard to catch if somebody is coming in. Okay, so I'll put the business survey on there. I can connect with him offline to revisit his survey and then come to us with a revision, and we could talk about. We'd obviously want to talk about it in respect to what's already happening with the Rapid Recovery Grant, but if that's just focused on a certain area, we can see how best to utilize this. I just don't want to hit businesses with a ton of different surveys. Anything else?
I just want to follow up on my email and invite you all to next Wednesday's master plan meeting.
Planning to be there. Yeah.
I'll be there.
Great.
I can't make it. I have a conflict, but Paul, I know you're going to confirm if it was recorded. Is it being recorded?
Oh, I didn't confirm it. I'm so sorry, but I will tell you that the website went live. So there's interactive exercises. If you go onto the Norton Master Plan website, you can actually start filling that in now.
Oh, good.
And it'll be open for a couple of weeks.
Okay.
So if you can't make it,
can I put you on the next agenda just to maybe give an overview of how the session went?
sure.
And then if there's any voter discussion or stickers that are, virtual stickers being put on, I'm all for fixing the traffic at the comment. I think I voted already on that one. And of course, if marijuana comes up, somebody just raise their hand for me.
Sure. And we'll just get the money and do it.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, that'll be.
This is on the traffic, right? Transportation and traffic.
It's traffic. It's water and sewer. It's library, senior center. So nothing that people won't have an opinion about. But
right.
People will have to. I met yesterday with the Serpents team and briefed them on things going on, like with the charter vote, and they're aware of what's going on at with the intersection at 140. That people have to be aware it's a long-term process to whatever ultimately gets approved by MassDOT will it's going to take a long time to do it. I mean, but so they're aware and will know when people bring issues up. We're talking about the senior center, so I'm sure there'll be discussions about the vote, or whatnot, but it is what it is. I mean, this is typical for any master plan. You need to talk about plans, need to talk about your services. So, the good and the bad.
Yeah. And you mentioned something about a charter vote. I don't know what you're talking about there. Kidding.
Fortunately, as not being a town resident, I did not have to answer that.
Right. I don't know what's getting more traffic, the charter, the debt exclusion, or that little tiny piece of property by Red Mill.
Charter.
And definitely in yours. You're living and breathing it.
I honestly think we're taking heat off of the debt exclusion at this point. I'm glad to see that turn at some point, and they can take some of our fire.
Can we get back to EDC?
Yes.
Please.
Thank you.
It's
yes, we can.
9:20 p.m. Can we please wrap this up?
It's 9:17. So you want me to fill for 3 minutes? No, we can't. Paul, when's the next public hearing on the that property to be rezoned for Mass DOT?
April 6th.
So on our next meeting, which is scheduled for April 7th, can you give us just an update on where that is? Because that's the meeting, guys, that Paul had last night that went past 10. I think you had like 2 hours, right, of discussion on that topic.
Yeah, so right now, the debate at planning board is whether that property should be rezoned to industrial, which is what is been applied for, or should it be commercial? The couple main differences there is that they allow mostly the same things, but industrial would allow a use like another alnylum, whereas you couldn't do that on commercial.
How big is that? This is that little triangle?
No, this is the 495 right off of exit 10, across the street from the Blue Star.
Okay, the one that the Mass DOT came and wants to, got it,
Yes.
sorry.
Yeah, it's about 40 acres.
Yeah, all right, that makes more sense.
Yeah, that public hearing was last
Why
night.
can't
I think when
put
I
fit
joined,
Nine?
I think there were 70 people on when I joined at 9:45.
We had 85 at the peak.
So what's on April 7th then? You just mentioned
So
April 7th, I thought.
April 7th is our next meeting, Denise. I was alluding to
Oh.
that to end this meeting, to say our next meeting is April 7th. And since the planning board's meeting on the 6th, Paul can give us an update at our next meeting. So we have,
Okay.
for the next meeting, we have a discussion on the business survey, the master plan overview, MassDOT property update, and I'm going to send you via email. I got a plan from Water and Sewer on what they're looking at from a proposal of infrastructure across the town. However, they did indicate because of the PFAS contamination, depending upon how test results come back, that plan can be completely blown up. So I know we talked about that previously on, where can we focus for economic development based on the infrastructure going in. So I'll shoot that out to you guys in an email, and we can put it on the agenda just as a placeholder if we're ready to talk about it.
Sounds
And
good,
that's
thank
it.
you.
Is there anything else to be discussed this evening? Okay, hold on, I lost my. Okay, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a
Seconded.
second? Thank you, Mike. We'll do roll call vote. Laura,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Denise,
Yes.
and I too vote yes. Thank you, guys. Appreciate your time this evening, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. And again, if you have any questions that you want me to send along to Oasis of Tranquility, please send them to me separately in an email, and I will do that. And we are adjourned at exactly 9:20 p.m.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Renee and the gang. Good night, Renee, Paul, Mike.
Good night, guys.
And Lauren, the gang. Good night, Elizabeth. Good night, Tom Holland.